This is a 2009 Lexus IS220 with a 4-cylinder 2.2 litre diesel engine with 180 brake horsepower, mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. First thing you'll need to do is retrieve your lock and wheel notch from, it's usually in the boot of your car. It's usually shaped like that, and you'll need a power bar and a 21mm deep impact socket. Remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey, and just release the tension there, and not take it all the way out, obviously, because the car's not on jacks yet, and do that for all the nuts. And you do this while the car's on the ground. It's a lot easier than when you're jacking up trying to take off the bolts. So do the other side as well. Now make sure your handbrake is fully on and it's in first gear. Now jack the car up so that there's enough room for the wheels to come off. Make sure you hold the car on axle stands. Store the wheel underneath the car in case the jack should fail for any reason. So here we'll have the disc, and as you can see, there's quite a lip on it. That suggests that it does need changing. New discs and pads from Brembo. Next thing, get some WD-40. Turn the wheel by using the track rod arm with one hand, and the other hand use the caliper. This will mean you get better access to the pads and the bolts that you'll have to loosen. This nut needs to come off. This nut needs to come off. That one around the back needs to come off. And that one needs to come off. Leave the WD-40 for about 10 minutes just to penetrate. Use a 14mm shallow impact to get this off. You might need a persuasion tool just to get this on. You can pick up these persuasion tools at any hardware store. Get your impact power bar. Be careful not to go too far so you don't hit the brake line. And then that should just loosen off with your fingers. And now the bottom one. Now this one is going to be a bit more corroded because all the salt from the roads will come up from the bottom here. So this one will take a little bit more persuading. Make sure that's firmly on there. Now before you completely take this off, what you'll need is something to hook the caliper around the coil spring up here, because this is quite heavy and these are quite weak and won't be able to hold the weight of the caliper. So this is a paint can hook, which you can get from about £1 from Wilko or any DIY store. So just have that standing by in case it falls off. No, it's kind of stuck on. So now get a really big screwdriver and just put that in there. You can see it's coming out there now. And then just ease the top bit as well. Yeah, so that's really heavy. You'll not be able to feel that till it actually comes off. And then just take that, hook that, just hook that around the top of the coil there, and that's out the way, and there's no stress on the brake line. So that's a little bit of what's inside. So here you've got the brake pad, the disc and the pad. You can see that's quite worn down, so these need to come out next. If you get a smaller screwdriver for this, just kind of feed that in. And you can see the difference there between the old brake pad and the new brake pad. So when it gets to about 2 mil, it's a good time to change them, because you don't really know how fast it's going to go down after that. And they don't tend to wear evenly either, so the inside one looks as though it's got 3 mil, whereas this has only got 2 mil on it. Whereas the new ones have a good 6 mil on them. You'll notice when I took this one out, it had a little widget, I think is the best way to describe it. Just prizing it off with a screwdriver, and then that will go on the new one. Like so. I'm not going to put that in yet. Now one thing to remember about these new brake pads is that normally in cars you'll get a right and left brake pad, but these are all the same, so you can use either one for whichever side. I'm going to use this as this is going to be my right hand side, the side that I'm doing now, and this is going to be the right hand side pad. Now I'm going to take the inside pad out, the old one, making sure I don't lose any widgets. Now then, if it gets to a stage like this where the brake pad isn't going to come out easy, what it's a good idea is just to take the whole caliper off, because we need to replace the disc anyway. So it's just two 17mm bolts there. So you just need a 17mm impact socket. use your power bar again. That's it. So now we're going to undo the bottom one using the power bar. Using the ratchet to go the rest of the way. And eventually you'll be able to take them out with your fingers. Well, these are quite tight. You'll notice the red thread in these. This is Loctite because these are quite important bolts keeping the caliper housing on. There we go. So just use your persuasion tool again just to knock out the pad. And just lie this down as it came off, like that, so you know which way around it goes. Notice again it's got one of them widgets which we'll use on the new one, and I've got one here so I can just take it straight off so I know which way around it goes on. Now these are quite fragile, these widget things. Let's just take it off. There we go. And onto the new one. So this is the inside, this is going to be the inside one, that's going to be the outside one. The caliper housing is off now, so I just need to take the brake disc off. That wasn't too bad. I'll just look at the condition of the hub. There's a bit of corrosion behind which I'll just scrape off with a wire brush. So if you look at the brake disc cover, that's in pretty good nick. You tend to find these corrode really badly. That one's still solid, so I'm pleased about that. So there's no bearing noise. That's good. So there's the disc. You should be able to make out a lip on that side. Inside, wow, look at that. Yeah, I'm pleased I'm changing these discs. The corrosion's quite extensive in there. So sometimes, even though you haven't got a big lip, if you've got a 9-year-old car and they're still in the original discs, yeah, it's good to change them. If you try to take the disc off and it's just not budging, get yourself a wooden mallet, turn the wheel, and you're going to be hitting right there. Try not to hit the strut, but you want to be just hitting the disc. Turn it round and the other side. So just get an old wire brush and scrape away any excess rust from the hub, surrounding area. You can pick one of these up at any hardware store. Now part of the reason why I'm getting rid of this corrosion is because all these little flakes, I don't know if you can see that there, but all these little flakes could quite easily get between the discs and the pad, and it'll render the performance not as good as it should be. Also, it makes for unnecessary and unwanted noises, squealing when you brake and things like that, so it's good to get any loose bits off while you're around here. The next stage is to put the new disc on. Now before you put the disc on, you'll need some copper slip on the hub, so that the next time this comes off, when it needs replaced again in a few years time, it'll be easier to do so. So just put a little smear on there. Now this is copper slip put into an old toothpaste tube. Just to stop that falling off, I'm just going to put a nut on, just finger tight for now. I'll just keep it in place while I put the caliper housing on. Put it on the other side as well. Before I put that caliper housing on, I'm going to clean it out first. Just scrape off any excess brake dust which has hardened over time. Once you've got rid of all the excess brake dust, you're going to put little bits of copper grease in here where the pads will slide when the caliper pushes the two against the disc. Just tiny little bits. Also, I'm going to just put a little bit on here. Now this is more to keep this widget from falling off like that. Again, I'm going to put some on the edges here. This will aid the caliper to slide back and forwards. If you get a little bit on the pads or the discs, don't worry too much, just wipe it off. Where the caliper fingers touch, you want to put a little bit on the back here. Make sure you get the right side there. What I'm going to do is put the side with the widget in first. Little top of the persuasion tool. Square that up so it's sitting a bit like that. So that will go over the top of the caliper. Let's just come off, just put that back on like that. And now this side. So once you get the pads in the caliper holder like that, making sure the widgets are the right way around, like that, just place that over the top there, and what you want in here is these bolts to be able to go into there like that. Now I'm not, because these are the ones with Loctite on, I'm not going to be putting any copper slip on that, because you don't want these coming off. So just put them on finger tight for now. And the top one. So now we just need to tighten these bolts up. Now these are 17s, and remember how we took it off with the power bar? Well, to tighten it up you don't want that much leverage, you only want a little bit of leverage, so you're not over tightening. So if you use something with a shorter lever, and this ratchet, half-inch ratchet drive is ideal. And the bottom one, as hard as you can, and in a couple of years time or whatever, if you need to do it again, you can always take it off with a lever, because as things are exposed to the road, bolts and things get harder to take off. Take your caliper, and we'll put this up here earlier. Now this piston is out and won't actually fit on the new discs and pads, because the discs are wider and the pads are wider because they're newer. So this piston needs to be shrunk like that. To do that, I'm going to use a G clamp, and you've got to be careful. You make sure you just do the metal parts here. Don't touch this rubber, the rubber part underneath, because that's very delicate. Just slowly do it. Yeah, that's enough. Take that off. And remember, these bits will be pushing directly onto the brake discs, so we'll put copper slip on there so they won't stick. So this should slide on now. There we go. Now these 14mm bolts, I'm going to put a bit of copper slip on. Just a little bit. Down there. And because these are only 14mm bolts, you want these tightened up a little bit less than when you tightened up the 17mm bolts before. So again, I'm going to use my ratchet. Instead of putting my hand right at the bottom, I'm going to just put it a little bit up there so I don't over tighten it. Always double check you have tightened the bolts. With it being your brakes, it just takes a few more seconds. Great. So there we have it. New discs and pads. So that scraping noise, you can just see this scoring start, some scoring starting there. That's perfectly normal. and it means that the pads are just sitting on the discs, and after a few 100 mile that will go and they'll be nicely bedded in. Now it's important to do one side first and then the other side, because if you try to do both sides at the same time, when you compress the caliper like we did with the G-clamp, if you do that on both sides without then pushing the brake pedal, the compressed brake fluid in the lines will have nowhere to go, and it'll come out the reservoir at the top and it'll be all over the ground. So after we've done this side, I'm now going to pump the brake pedal. Ooh. Now pump the brake pedal, it'll go right to the floor. That's okay, let it come up. Do it a couple more times till it's solid. Yeah, it's solid there now, I can't do anything more. Before you put the wheel back on, take these off that you used to hold the discs, because the discs are now held in place by the caliper housing. You'll notice the disc is a little bit wiggly. Don't worry, because the wheel, once it goes on, will push that all together nicely. Before you put the wheel on, get a little bit of copper slip and put a bit where the contact will be made between the disc and the wheel. Includes going around the rim here as well, and this will mean that if you ever break down on a rainy cold night because you've got a puncture, you can always put your space saver on without too much difficulty, because with the heat generated through the wheels they can easily get welded onto each other. Just put a little bit on the bolt. There we go. Use your 21mm impact socket just to finger tighten it. Remember to tighten up opposite ends to get the wheel there on just square. I'm not tightening them up above finger tightness yet. I'll wait till the wheels are on the ground to do that. And now you can do the other side. Even though the car's just passed its MOT, you can see it was a good call changing the discs. This is the driver's side, or the offside one, and this is the new one that I'm going to be putting on. You can see the lip isn't too bad, but the corrosion down the centre and in around here is substantial. So it's always good to check your brakes even if your car has just passed its MOT, because a car with brakes like this, it won't take a year before that's disintegrated. The important thing once you've done your discs and pads is to make sure that you don't use the brakes to the full extent if you can help it. So if you're coming up to a junction or traffic lights, just use your engine braking a little bit more and use the brakes a little bit less, just for the first couple of 100 miles, and then that will mean the discs and the pads will bed into each other just nicely.